Or at least you can tell it it's not.
We're now live on YouTube.
Thank you, Tina. Good morning. We'll get started in just a few minutes. Thank you, everyone.
Just wanted to let you guys know that it's Christy here with Capitol Reporters.
Thank you, Christy.
You're welcome.
Okay, good morning, everyone. I'd like to call the March 7th Nevada Tax Commission meeting to order. Tina, would you please call roll, please?
Yes. Commissioner Lippman,
Present.
Commissioner Bursey.
Here.
Commissioner Brown,
Present.
Commissioner Johnson,
Here.
Commissioner Wren,
Present.
Commissioner Byram,
Present.
Commissioner Witt,
Present.
and Chairman DeVold.
And I'm here as well. Okay, at this time, I'd like to invite any public comment. Tina, if you could let people know how to provide public comment, I'd appreciate it.
If anybody would like to provide public comment, please dial *9 or raise your hand in Zoom. Phone number ending in 647. You may provide public comment. Phone number ending in 647. Would you like to provide public comment?
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hi, this is Angela Guardia. I'm the Director of Finance for the Amateur Athletic Union of the United States. We're located in Florida. We are a partner of Disney, providing athletic opportunities for mostly children, and we do have several large events in the state of Nevada.
Yes.
We have filed. Yes, we have filed for sales tax exemption in Nevada, and we're denied.
Excuse me.
Excuse
me. That's an action item on the agenda, and we'll get to that in order. If you could hang on for a moment, please.
Sure, no problem.
Thank you. Is there any public comment not relating to items on the agenda?
I don't see any public comment.
Okay, and I believe everyone received an email regarding a topic. And I cannot recall the gentleman's name, but I believe everyone received that email. Is that correct? I'm seeing a lot of shaking heads. Thank you very much. Okay, please add that to your public comment list. Okay, Director Hughes, would you please administer the oath to anyone that plans on testifying today?
Yes. For those of you testifying today, please raise your right hand and take the oath. By testifying today, you are confirming that you raised your hand, took the oath, and that your testimony during these proceedings will be truthful. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Director Hughes. Could I get a motion to approve the minutes for January 24th, 2020 for the Nevada Tax Commission meeting?
So moved. This is Commissioner Witt. There may be one correction, not a big deal.
Okay.
It says that Commissioner Witt pulled item E3, Spring Mountain Driving School. I think that was actually Commissioner Lippman.
I agree.
Okay. Very good. Thank you, Commissioner Witt. Could I get a motion with the amended change to the minutes?
So moved. Commissioner Witt.
Commissioner Wren, second.
Okay, I've got a motion and second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Is anyone opposed?
Brown, I will be abstaining because I wasn't at the meeting.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Brown. Okay, next item on the agenda is the consent calendar. Is there any items that any of the commissioners would like to pull for further consideration? And I would like to start. I believe we've got some clarification on item D1, HJM Oasis LLC. So we'll be pulling D1. Is there any other items?
Commissioner Lippman would like to pull item E as in elephant 1, Alan Silberstang.
Thank you, Commissioner Lippman. Is there any other items to pull for further discussion? Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar with the exception of items D1 and E1?
Commissioner Bursey moves to approve the consent calendar with the exceptions of item D1 and E1.
Commissioner Byram, second.
Almost a Freudian slip there, Commissioner. Thank you. I've got a motion and second to approve the consent calendar with the exceptions of item D1 and E1. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Is anyone opposed? Hearing none, consent calendar is approved. Director Hughes, item D1, HJM Oasis LLC. I believe we've got a small clarification that we need to make.
Yes, we do, Chairman. Is Natasha Gabriel on? Yes.
Yes, I'm on. Thank you, Director. And thank you, Chairman and Commissioners. I would like to make a clarification on page 3 of the settlement agreement, line 13. The department would request this commission to approve the settlement agreement in its entirety, but strike the language that appears in line 13 on page 3, which indicates half of the interest calculated through September 30th, 2021, as that is not an accurate assessment of the settlement amount.
Thank you, Ms. Gabriel. Is there any concern or conversation?
Chairman DeVold, I'd like a little bit more of an explanation. So it's not 50%, is it, flesh that out a little bit for us.
Sure,
Gabriel.
thank you,
Yeah.
Commissioner Lippman. So the $14,719.93 is representative of 75% of the tax deficiency, but that number does not reflect any penalties, nor does it reflect any interest. The reason that we're striking that portion of the settlement agreement is because it was a miscommunication and a clerical error in communicating what that number exactly represented. And that's honestly what happened, is just a miscommunication. But the settlement amount is what was always relayed to taxpayer, and that's what that 14,000 is what they saw and what they accepted.
Thank you. And so it's 75% of the tax liability, no interest or penalties.
That is correct, Commissioner Lippman.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are any other questions of the department? Is there a motion to approve?
Commissioner Lippman moves to approve item D1 of the consent calendar, consideration for approval of the recommended settlement agreement and stipulation for HJM Oasis.
Commissioner Bursey seconds.
Okay, I've got a motion and second to approve item D1 on the consent calendar. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Okay, motion passes. Director Hughes, item E1, I believe, Commissioner Lippman, did you have a question, please?
Yes, so thank you very much for this offer and compromise for Mr. Silverstein. Is the taxpayer on the line, Ms. Arceo?
Ms. Arceo, for the record, I believe he is. I know with our phones being down in the Vegas office, I've communicated with him through email, and he did state he was going to be present today.
So my one question is, the taxpayer, as the record reflects, I think it's 500 pages, has been through pretty much every different administrative option the Department of Tax offers. And while I am in favor of approving this offer and compromise, I do want to make certain that the taxpayer understands that his current business needs to operate in accordance with, all of the sales tax laws, so that he doesn't have to go through this one more time. None of us want to be back for the current business.
Lizette Arceo for the department. I have gone through the accounts that he's currently operating, and they are compliant. They've been compliant. This account actually was compliant up until the audit, which the audit was the assessment. And then after the audit, those few periods in between. So the department is keeping a close eye on those other businesses as well.
Thank you. I expected that was the answer, but I just want to make sure, because there's been an enormous amount of work from the Department of Taxation to get to this point. So maybe just have the taxpayer acknowledge that if he is online.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? I don't know.
Is this Mr. Silverstein?
Yeah, oh yeah, I'm sorry. This is Alan Silverstein. Sorry.
Yes, we can hear you. Oops, not anymore because I need
it. Absolutely. I've been in compliance and doing my best to stay up to date with everything.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate what you say. Thank you.
So I do move, unless there's any more discussion, I do move to approve the offer and compromise from Mr. Alan Silverstein, item E1 of the consent calendar.
Commissioner Witt, second.
Okay, thank you. I've got a motion and second to approve the offer and compromise for Alan Salberstein. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Okay, that wraps up the consent calendar. So anyone that's on the line that is in the agenda under item 3, the consent calendar, your items have been approved, and you're welcome to stay online, but you can also go ahead and get on with your day if that works. So anyone that's got on agenda item consent calendar, item number 3, A through E has been approved. Okay, Division of Local Government Services, Director Hughes, would you introduce the next topic?
Yes, the next topic is 4A, discussion and consideration for granting a waiver to remain on guaranteed status for supplemental city-county relief tax pursuant to NRS 377.057 subsection 2. And for the department, we have Kevin Williams.
Good morning, Kevin Williams, Department of Taxation, for the record. During the department's annual comparison of supplemental city-county relief tax distributions and collections, 5 counties were identified as exceeding the 10% threshold for eligibility for removal from guaranteed status. Those counties are Douglas, Lander, Lyon, Pershing, and White Pine counties. In accordance with NRS 377, all 5 counties were notified that they would be removed from guaranteed status unless they requested a waiver from today's tax commission. 3 counties have indicated that they will be requesting a waiver: Lander, Pershing, and White Pine County. 2 counties indicated that they would not be requesting a waiver: Douglas and Lyon County. Lyon County has indicated that they will not be attending today's NTC meeting. The 4 other counties have said they would have a representative available to speak at today's meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Let's take these in order. Let's see, is there a representative from Lander County on the line?
Yes, sir. Bert Ramos, for the record.
Good morning, Mr. Ramos. How are you?
Good, and yourself?
Doing great, thank you. Do you want to give us a presentation on why you exceeded the 12-month period distribution?
You bet. I believe it's because, we're part of the mining communities out here in Nevada, and when the mines are doing well, we tend to exceed. If they're not doing well, then we don't. So I believe that's probably the simple answer.
Is there any questions of any of the commissioners of Mr. Ramos? Is there a motion to approve granting waiver status for Lander County?
This is Commissioner Wren, so moved.
Commissioner Witt, second.
Okay, I've got a motion and second by Commissioner Wren, seconded by Commissioner Witt. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Very good. Thanks for your time today, Mr. Ramos.
Yes, thank you all very much. We appreciate your time as well.
You bet. Is there a representative from White Pine County?
Yes, this is Elizabeth Francis with White Pine County. I'm the finance director.
Good morning, Ms. Francis.
Good morning.
Same question. Can you kind of help us with why you're asking for the waiver?
Yes, White Pine County, the majority of the excess is coming due to a couple of different factors. The first being that we are a mining county and the mines are going strong right now, producing a lot of income, but should they close down, we would have a substantial downfall in not just the net proceeds of minerals, but all related taxes, including the sales tax, property tax. And so should that happen, we anticipate that we would have a deficit in our general fund. Also, we've had multiple large construction projects ongoing that are wrapping up right now, which have also generated tax to the county government. And when those construction projects are done, the related taxes will also go away on those. The county is working toward diversifying its economy. We are looking at one project that will generate an additional $10 million in revenues if the stored energy project moves forward. That's being proposed, but that's still going through regulatory phases. And if that should come to fruition, we will probably get off the waiver status at that time. But for right now, because it's still going through the regulatory agencies for approval, we're asking to remain on for another year.
Thank you, Ms. Francis. Do any of the commissioners have any questions?
This is Commissioner Byram. I just wanted to thank White Pine County and the representatives. They did an excellent job making the case that is supposed to be made, and they're also in the background working on their diversification and working. The guaranteed status isn't meant to be permanent, but it's meant to be helpful when the economy of a local area is not consistent. And I'm really impressed with the way White Pine County makes the case and the efforts that they're actually using while revenues are up to be able to move to that next level. So I appreciate the case that you made. And if there are no other comments, I would move to approve the waiver, the waiver for White Pine County.
Commissioner Witt, second.
Okay, I've got a motion from Commissioner Byram, seconded by Commissioner Witt. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Thank you, Ms. Francis. I appreciate your time today. And again, echoing Commissioner Byram, nice job on the presentation. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Is there a representative from Pershing County on the phone?
Chairman DeVold, this is Tina. We're not sure if there is a representative from Pershing County. If there is, please raise your hand or dial *9 in Zoom. I don't see anybody from Pershing County on the line.
Okay. Is there any questions of Mr. Williams, staff?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question for Mr. Williams.
Yes, please.
In looking at the Pershing County bar chart, it looks like there's a odd anomaly. Hold on, let me get back to it. So in our packet, it's page 27, and it shows that in May of 2021, there was an enormous boost in taxes that if that were taken away, may have changed the result. But I just wanted to know, are you aware of what took place in that month to cause that to be so different from the normal revenues? And if so, did you review without that anomaly to see what the status would be?
Kevin Williams, taxation for the record. Yes, Commissioner Byram. We did look into it. We contacted a taxpayer. It was found that it was a single taxpayer with an irregular yet correct filing. I did not remove the data point from the data set because I'm not instructed to do so in the NRS. Had to take it into account, but recognize that it was an anomalous reporting that has not since been repeated in the data set.
Okay, thank you. With there being that odd thing there, I just wondered if it had been an audit result or if a one-time purchase or what, but it seems to me that Pershing County at least asked for the waiver. They stated the criteria for making the case. They didn't necessarily make the case, but with the department providing the backup materials for them. It appears that it's, and with the, knowing that the consequences are you can never get back on it, I would move to approve the Pershing County waiver request.
Commissioner Wren, second.
Okay, I've got a motion and second. All those in favor granting the waiver for Pershing County, please
Aye.
signify by saying aye.
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 Is anyone opposed? Okay, motion passes. Douglas County and Lyon County, I understand, are not requesting a waiver. Is that correct, Director Hughes?
Yes, that's my understanding. Kevin, did you say Douglas was going to be on the line?
They are.
Douglas County is on the line if you would like to speak with them, Chairman DeVold.
Yes, please. Is there someone from Douglas County on the line? Please raise your hand and we'll unmute you.
Go.
Carrie Willoughby, for the record, I'm here from Douglas County. I'm the Chief Financial Officer.
Good morning. Is there a reason why you're not asking for a waiver?
We do not, we feel that a waiver is not needed at this time, and we foresee continued growth in both our population and the SCCRT. Been quite a bit of analysis on this and feel it's normal growth, and the board has directed me to not ask for a waiver.
Okay, but you have a beautiful area out there and I can see why it's continuing to grow. So thank you very much. So
thank you.
This is an agenda item, so I would need a motion to not grant the waiver from a commissioner if you're so inclined.
Commissioner Witt, so moved.
I have a question of Ms. Willoughby.
Yes. Yep. Commissioner Lippman, go ahead, please.
Thank you. I just want to affirm that the board understands and you understand that this is a permanent, so you're permanently waiving the waiver. So
Yeah, yes, I understand. And we made that very clear to our board that we could not go back on guaranteed status at this, after this.
Thank you for that affirmation.
No problem. Thank you.
Commissioner Byram, since a waiver wasn't requested, the item on the agenda is consideration for granting the waiver, but there was no waiver requested. So that, so I'm just asking, do we need a motion on that or do we just pass that?
Ms. Bordelove, what's your advice on this topic? Do we need to vote to not grant the waiver since one was not requested?
One wasn't requested, no. I don't believe any motion is required. You could take action that you're not granting one, but one wasn't requested, so the effect would be the same.
Okay. Since it was an agenda item, I kind of felt like there was a consideration for granting a waiver, that it's on the agenda, and that's the only reason. Okay, so you would agree we do not need to take any action with regard to Douglas County or Lyon County, and that their waivers for guaranteed status would be lost.
Correct, since they have not requested the waiver, then there's nothing to be granted or denied at this point.
Okay, very good. Is there anyone from Lyon County on the line?
If there is anybody on the line from Lyon County, please raise your hand or dial *9. I do not see anybody from Lyon County on the line.
Okay, very good. So I'm going to say that we've exhausted everything on item 4A, the waivers for guaranteed status. Director Hughes, next item on the agenda.
The Next item on the agenda is 4B, review and consideration for approval of the Assessor's Handbook of Rural Building Costs for 2023, 2024, as authorized under NAC 361.128, subsection A. And we have Cheryl Erskine for the department.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the Tax Commission. My name is Cheryl Erskine. I am the Coordinator of Assessment Standards for Local Government Services Division. I'm here today to seek your approval for the 2023-2024 Manual of Rural Building Costs, which is updated and presented by our office on an annual basis. County assessors are required to use standards adopted by the Tax Commission when valuing property in the state of Nevada. As part of those standards, NAC 361.128 specifically provides for a manual of rural building costs used for the valuation of agricultural type buildings and improvements like barns, equipment sheds, bunkhouses, corrals, etc. This year, in an effort to be more proactive in providing costs needed by the assessors, LGS has chosen to separate this manual into two parts. Part A, rural building costs, is the manual that has been provided in the past, and it contains costs for rural property type structures. This year, some items were moved to Part B, alternate costs. Part B provides costs of items that are typically not found on rural properties and are things that assessors have been unable to locate in the Marshall and Swift manuals. So they have made special requests in the past for alternative cost methods. The addition of the alternate cost section should provide standardization of costs across the state without the request process through the Department of Taxation's Executive Director. The assessors are still able to request alternative costs using that process. However, they can also complete a request form and submit it to our office so that we may consider new cost additions for the manual. That request form is available on our website. In the future, we are also planning a Section C to this manual that will contain renewable energy information and cost reference to the sections in the Marshall and Swift manual to assist assessors in finding applicable costs. That section was not included in this manual for your approval today because it was felt it was needed more work and wasn't ready for approval. This consensus was reached after a public workshop, which was held on February 23rd. We're hoping that section can be brought forward as an amendment to this manual at a future NTC meeting this year or be an inclusion in future years. When we bring it forward will depend on when we can have the revisions finished. Most costs in this manual are derived from the current Marshall and Swift commercial manual. For items not listed in the Marshall and Swift commercial manual, costs are obtained from farm and ranch store websites by using a competitive shopping method from at least 3 separate vendors. This manual does not make an adjustment for amateur workmanship, which is defined in the Marshall and Swift manual, section 99, page 1. This section states all costs in the manual are based on professional labor supervised by a contractor or job foreman. For amateur workmanship or work done by farm or ranch help, costs should be decreased to reflect the proper wage rate and lack of contractor architectural supervision relative to the quality of work. Marshall and Swift recommends an adjustment of 15 to 30% be made. Based on this statement, Local Government Services recommends a 25% adjustment be made by the assessor for farm labor when it is appropriate. Esmeralda, Eureka, and Humboldt counties were given the opportunity to review the manual this year. No issues were identified by any of the counties. We also met with all of the assessors on January 6th and provided the manual in the new format for their review and comment. Local Government Services analyzed the costs in comparison to last year and noted an average 16 to 20% change, which is similar to the increase in the Consumer Price Index seen in other reports this year. We request approval of the Manual of Building Costs as presented. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Erskine. Commissioner Wren, I believe you attended this workshop. Did you have any other comments, please?
No, sir, I don't. I did attend it. I did agree with the pulling the supplement solar just because they didn't have the necessary information to quantify those type of costs. So no, it looks good to go.
Okay, and there wasn't any opposition during the workshop?
None.
Okay, very good. Are there any other questions of Ms. Erskine?
Mr. Chairman, this is Commissioner Brown.
Yes,
I just
sir.
wanted to mention that communications equipment is mentioned on page 90 through 93 of the manual. I'm employed by AT&T. It doesn't affect AT&T any differently than any other telecommunications company.
Thank you, Commissioner Brown. Any other discussion items? Is there a motion to approve?
Commissioner Witt, I move to approve the manual for the Assessor's Handbook of Rural Building Costs for 2023 and 2024.
Commissioner Johnson, I'll second the motion.
Thank you. I've got a motion by Commissioner Witt, seconded by Commissioner Johnson. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Is anyone opposed? Okay, handbook for rural building costs has been approved. Thank you, Ms. Erskine. Director Hughes, next item.
Subsection 2, where administrative costs exceed revenue from tax on personal property for application in fiscal year 2022, 2023. And we have Sharon Silva for the department.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the Commission. Shannon Silva, locally assessed supervisor for the record. NRS 361-068 allows the Nevada Tax Commission to exempt from taxation personal property which the annual taxes would be less than the cost to collect those taxes. The Division of Local Government Services conducts a survey of county assessors and treasurers annually to determine the cost to collect. This year's individual county per tax bill cost resulted in a range of $1.70 to $17.32, averaging $8.32, up from last year's average of $7.87. The statewide mean of $6.55 is up from last year's cost of $6.22, and the median of $6.92 is up from last year's $6.68. Based on the department's analysis of the survey results, we recommend that the personal property bills of $10 or less be exempt from taxation for the 22-23 fiscal year. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you, Ms. Silva. Any questions of the department? Is there a motion to approve?
Commissioner Witt, move to approve the review and consideration for approval of exemptions for 2022 and 2023.
Commissioner Byram, second.
I've got a motion by Commissioner Witt, seconded by Commissioner Byram. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Is anyone opposed? Okay, very good. Thank you. Next item on the agenda, Director Hughes.
The next item on the agenda is under Compliance Division 5A, approval of refund credit requests in excess of $250,000. And for the department, it's Nadia Vasheko for Hilton Resorts Corporation.
Good morning, Chairman DeWald. Good morning, members of the Commission. Today, my name is Nadia Vasheko, and today I'm here to ask for your approval for a refund request to be granted for the Hilton Resort Corporation. Hilton Resort Corporation has been designated as an affiliated group payroll provider for the fiscal years 2017, 2018, 2018, 2019, 2019, 2020, and 2020, 2021. This status allows the entity to apply 50% of commerce tax paid by the affiliated entities as Hilton Resort Corporation itself, Hilton Grand Vacation Management LLC, and Grand Vacation Club LLC as commerce tax credit toward the modified business tax. Hilton Resort Corporation filed and amended a modified business tax returns for the periods June 30th, 2018, March 31st, 2019, December 31st, 2019, September 30th, 2020, December 31st, 2020, and March 31st, 2021, to claim commerce tax credit and requested the refund. Hilton Resort Corporation also amended gross wages for the periods ending March 31st, 2019, December 31st, 2019, and September 30th, 2020. Department reviewed the amended returns and determined that Hilton Resort Corporation is entitled to a refund of $1,347,485.62.
Thank you. Any questions of the department?
Commissioner Lippman, Ms. Vashenko, I'm just wondering, we don't pay interest on this payment. Is that correct?
This refund request somewhat overlaps the period that actually with the MBT rate amendment. So specifically, we don't pay interest on amendment from the commerce tax credit application. However, the interest was paid according to the court decision for the periods that were from the rate change. And it has already, taxpayer has already received the money for that.
So I'm more confused now.
Answering your question, we normally don't pay interest on the refunds that result from the commerce tax credit application.
So we didn't pay interest to them?
On this one, from the commerce tax credit amendment, we don't pay interest.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Lippman. Is there a motion to approve?
Commissioner Lippman moves to approve the refund credit request of Hilton Resorts, item 5A1.
Commissioner Witt, second.
Yeah, I heard a couple. Motion by Commissioner Lippman, second by Commissioner Witt. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Is anyone opposed? Okay, motion passes. Director Hughes, next item on the agenda.
Next item is 5B, Taxpayers' Objection to the Administrative Law Judge's recommended decision regarding an appeal of the department's denial of waiver of penalty and/or interest pursuant to NRS 360.419. And the first one is Ebenezer Abner Tama General Partnership. Nadia Visheko for the department.
Okay, is there anyone for the general partnership on the telephone at this time?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Oh, hi. My name's Maurice Mancuso, and I'm the tax officer / manager of Abienza Abner Tama General Partnership.
Okay,
so
could you state and spell your both names for the court reporter, please?
Oh, yeah, sure. Maurice Mancuso, that's Maurise Mancuso, MANCUSO.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mancuso. This is your appeal. You've got 5 minutes to, we've read a significant amount of documentation regarding this item. So if you could please be brief, I'd appreciate it. But could you tell me why you disagree with the administrative law judge's decision in that 5-minute period? And your time.
Okay, 5 minutes period. Okay. Well, first of all, I'm 69 years old. My communication skills aren't as good as most people. So if you can't understand me, just let me know. Okay. Okay. If you read both of my October 21st letter, it contains a lot of information, and my February 21st letter, if you read a lot of that, I don't want to dwell on that. We admit that we made the payment late for the 2019 thing because of the facts I stated in my letter. It was one day late. They received it. The Nevada Department of Taxation received it earlier than they would have if we would have timely filed it by certified mail. And it was just I put down the facts, I put down the truth, and so they're all on paper. And on the second one for the 2019 through 2020, I stressed in the thing that I had no idea that we were going to not be able to pay the amount of the $90,000 or whatever that amount is. Honest to God, this is one of 15 companies or so that I deal with, and I only deal with this company when it's Commerce tax time, and I don't really know I know they're losing money, a lot of money on this project, but I didn't realize that I couldn't even get a tax check issued, and it had to wait until September 4th when we were able to obtain the funds from Fulcrum Bioenergy, which is all in my printed letters. And so I know we're honest taxpayers. If we would have filed for tax amnesty, we couldn't. But and I know maybe I shouldn't bring this up, but taxpayers that didn't pay the tax to begin with got the penalties and interest. I don't know about the interest waived, but we're an honest taxpayer. We're losing money right and left. We paid our taxes, and it was just circumstances beyond our control. That's what I really honestly consider circumstances beyond our control about. So now I'm just rambling on, but I'm not a very good speaker. I wish I did only had 5 minutes on this thing. I was hoping that the commission was going to ask me questions about particular parts of my written statements. And so I didn't have anything like prepared. Anyway, I guess
that's okay, Mr. Mancuso. I think that's fine. We have read a significant volume of information, and I'm curious. Let me bring it back to the commission at this time. Is there any questions of Mr. Mancuso?
This Commissioner Witt, is the reason that you weren't able to pay because Fulcrum had not paid you? Is that what I thought I read?
Okay. Well, here's the thing. We're involved we built on behalf of Fulcrum Bioenergy, a $250 million plant next to Reno, Nevada. Okay. There are so many cost overruns in that thing on that project because due to the higher tariff tax on steel and Fulcrum Bioenergy wanted to make these all these changes and things like that. Our costs were greater than what we thought they were going to be. So there was a point in time in the summer of 2020 that we couldn't pay our vendors, which I didn't know about till August 12th, late August 12th. I was told that it couldn't pay our vendors. So that's why we had to have Fulcrum get the money from Fulcrum in order to pay the tax. I probably didn't give you a straight answer, but do you have any questions on my answer? I'm sorry.
No, I think that answered my question. I think that's where you're going to need to go to get some relief. And after reading all the information, I'm prepared to make a motion that I would support the department in the matter with the Abenisa-Abner-Tamaya General Partnership.
This is Commissioner Byram. May I ask a question of the state?
Yes. Yes, please go ahead.
Is it Ms. Vashenko dealing with this one?
Yes.
Okay. Let me go to the document real quick. In email correspondence and in our packet, it's page 145. It's down to the wire, and he finds out that there's a problem with the money. And the response is that we don't offer email option for extensions. And I just wanted to know, is that a statutory thing for commerce tax? Or what is the reason you wouldn't offer an email option?
Usually taxpayers just, no, it's not statutory. It just, we have email address and we just don't offer this option. There's nothing statutory about this.
Well, I think that's different from the divisions of the Nevada Department of Taxation that I normally deal with, the Local Government Services Division and others. We request and receive extensions via email all the time. And part of the problem this taxpayer has is they are down to the wire, which normally is when you find out, oh boy, we're not going to make it, we need to get an extension. Once in a while, you know well in advance enough to put a stamp on something and mail it and wait for the answer. But normally it comes right down to the wire and you're going to need more time. And there's no time for the Postal Service to send it and you wait for an answer. So dealing with the department electronically is almost all I do these days. But an email option for extensions, to not offer that would have given them an extension and then they would have been within the period of time needed. So I wanted to know if that was a requirement, if that's statutory, if there's any other reason why you wouldn't have offered the taxpayer that option so that they could be in compliance.
Nadia Washeka for the department. There's a couple things that I want to respond to. First, taxpayers usually, they can file extension anytime. Literally, we get the earliest extension probably as early as in January for upcoming years. So it's not like a last minute when they have to file extension. You can file extension anytime. Second, we have several thousand taxpayers. So if usually, depending on the year, like first year, we had thousands of extensions coming. And at this moment, it's approximately, I would say 500 extensions that we potentially can get via email. And we just limited and staff how we, it's on top of all the questions that we received during the commerce tax season. So it might be slightly overwhelming if we start getting those via email.
Okay, and then other than email, your taxpayers file electronically, is that correct? They go to the website and they file electronically?
Yes, they can file electronically if they sign up for Nevada OLT.
So if you were to make an option, this is going forward, but if you were to make an option where they can log on to their account and flag it that it needs an extension, that would avoid all the email, but they ought to be able to do it electronically. And even though they can do it well in advance, sometimes they need to do it last minute and didn't know until the very last minute that they needed to. So it seems to me that we need to work on a fix for that, because having to revert to snail mail when almost everything else in the department is moving forward and becoming automated, that I was just really surprised to see that there's no electronic option. Now that commerce tax is more established, you may be getting fewer requests for extension, but if you were to automate that so that it goes through their account, that they can log in and do it. If email doesn't work for you, something should be changed in that if that's possible and it doesn't violate the statute. Does that make sense?
Nadia Washeka for the department, and that was one thing that I really wanted from the beginning of commerce tax, electronic extension, but I believe the system itself is antiquated until we change to the new system, and that's what Smart Project is for. I don't think it's possible systematically to do that. At least what I wanted with the automatic extension, it didn't materialize in the first year and subsequently. So I'm hoping that the new system will help us with that.
Okay, and that might be a question for the executive director to, but I'm kind of torn on this. I'll just give my opinion real quick. I'm torn on this decision because it doesn't appear that they really, when they asked for the ability to request an exemption, they weren't given something. Doesn't feel correct to me, but I'll just leave it at that.
Thank you, Commissioner Byram. Director Hughes, do you have any response to Commissioner Byram's questions?
Yes, thank you, Chairman DeVold. I tend to agree with Commissioner Byram. As we're moving forward, we should be able to take electronic extension requests. However, as Ms. Fishako mentioned, we don't currently have that capability through our system. However, we can look into setting up maybe a specific email address to collect these extension requests. So I will work with staff to see what we can do.
Thank you. I've got a motion on the floor from Commissioner Witt. Do you wish to continue with that motion, Commissioner Witt?
Yes.
I'm ready to second it, Chairman.
Okay, so I've got a motion and a second to deny the taxpayers' request for waiver of penalty and interest according to NRS 360.419. I'll take a roll call vote. Commissioner Wren?
Nay.
Commissioner Bursey?
Nay.
Commissioner Witt?
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson?
Nay.
Commissioner Byram?
Nay.
Commissioner Brown?
Nay.
That was a no, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Brown. Commissioner Lippman?
Aye.
Chair votes no. The waiver has been approved for TAMA General Partnership. Thank you, Mr. Mancuso. You won the day today, and we appreciate your time and effort.
Okay, I want to thank everybody, and I really do appreciate this.
Okay, pay on time in the future, please.
Of course.
Thank
Of
you.
course.
Pay
promise.
1 day early. Do me a favor, pay 1 day early. Thank you.
Okay, I promise. Okay, thanks everybody.
Okay.
Commissioner DeVold, this is, or Chairman DeVold, this is Commissioner Wren. I think maybe you actually need a motion to approve the waiver.
Yes, Rosalie Bordelot for the record. I was about to jump in there. That motion failed, so I think a motion going the other direction would make this a little cleaner.
Okay, very good. Could I get a motion, Commissioner Wren?
Yes, I would move that we approve the recommendation for the waiver.
Commissioner Bursey seconds.
Got a motion and second. I'm going to just call for a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Anyone opposed?
Aye.
Commissioner Witt.
Okay, so the score remained the same. It was 6-2 vote. Thank you, Commissioner Wren. Director Hughes, next item on the agenda.
The next item is 5B2, Discount Rental Car LLC. And for the department, we have Lizette Arceo.
Okay, is there someone on the line representing Discount Rental Car LLC?
Chairman DeVold, we have Daria Lavaska on the line.
Hi there, how are you?
I'm wonderful, thank you. Could you spell your first and last name for the record, please?
Yes, my name is Daria, Daria, last name Lagovska, L as in Larry, A-G-O, V as in Victor, S-K-A.
Okay, and this is your appeal of the administrative law judge's decision. We've read quite a bit of the information. You've got 5 minutes to give us a breakdown of why you disagree with the administrative law judge's decision.
Okay, thank you. I believe that as a taxpayer, I initially made the reasonable effort to obtain information from Nevada Department of Taxation through all the publicly available materials. I tried my best as a reasonable taxpayer to assess my taxes and pay them accordingly. When I inquired with an enrolled agent after the audit, who is trained to assess taxes for different businesses as well, federal as well as state, he was not readily available to assess them and had to seek help from the department. The department in turn took a while to figure out how the taxes have to be paid. So clearly it's not as straightforward as one may seem. And for somebody who is not trained in tax paying like myself, it was a big learning curve. So in my understanding, I was not educated enough on tax paying materials to be able to do that. That's why the third party agent was hired to pay taxes and assess them, and in turn prepare the documents and pay them going forward. So I believe that it's unreasonable to shift all the burden just onto myself and for the department not to take any responsibility for the advice that's been given through the whole process by two of their employees that are no longer with the department. I was advised on something that didn't come to fruition. And then according to the NRS statutes, there are provisions for somebody like myself who did not file taxes erroneously on purpose, and it was an honest mistake. I also want to say that I did not qualify for the amnesty program based on a technicality, even though it was implemented in place for somebody like myself who had had financial hardship to be able to pay everything that's owed. Even though I paid all the liability, the penalties and interest are still outstanding. And I ask the department and the commissioners to take all of this in consideration and help me with this ongoing dispute. That is all from me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Arceo, do you have a response?
Good morning. For the record, Lizette Arceo for the department. Just a couple of things. The department's recommendation was based on the information that we had provided to the taxpayer. As the administrative law judge stated in her recommendation, the department had the resources and had contact with Ms. Lagovska throughout the course of the business. As far as the periods after the audit, those are not in question. The administrative law judge did waive those periods. So whether or not the department responded timely, which by department's regulations to responding to an inquiry from the taxpayer, it was timely, and we made the taxpayers representative aware that the department needed additional time. So that information was provided. And again, those periods are not in question. The periods that are in question are the ones for the audit. As far as the employees that Ms. Lagovska states gave her misinformation, during the hearing, Ms. Lagovska did acknowledge that during the time that she submitted these waivers, the revenue officers did explain to her and did discuss with her that it required approval by the supervisor, that no guarantees were made at that point in time when the tax is paid in full. With regards to the amnesty, again, there was no way for the department, for the state, for the world to know that an amnesty was going to happen in 2021. We didn't know what was going to happen in 2020. She paid her debt in 2019. So there was no way for the department to allow her to benefit on something that was paid well before amnesty was even a thought for the department. And again, the department's recommendation is based on what she had stated on her request, which was that there was change in staff. She didn't know exactly how to file, but again, the department had contact with Ms. Legowska regarding that, and she was the one filing and paying these returns during the audit, not somebody else. So again, the department respectfully requests that the commission uphold the administrative law judge's recommendation.
Thank you, Ms. Arceo. I'm going to bring it back to the commission. Is there any questions of the taxpayer or the department at this time?
This is Commissioner Byram. A question for Ms. Legowska. When the transactions took place where there were errors that the audit later picked up, but when there were errors and the tax wasn't being accrued, was that tax being collected from the customers and then not remitted, or was it just not being collected because you didn't understand that it was taxable?
I believe there were several errors, and on most of them, tax was not collected at all because we did not know at the time that those items should be taxed.
Okay, so then you, after this assessment, you remitted to the state for the most part, other than I think an asset sale or purchase, but you remitted taxes to the state out of your profits that you had not collected, because these are pass-through taxes. These are taxes that you should be collecting and then turning over to the state. But since you hadn't collected them, you still paid the amount of tax in full out of your margin without any ability to go back to all those people that rented cars and then reimburse yourself for that. So that came out of your pocket, correct?
That's correct. And it was a pretty large liability. If in my understanding, it was upwards $48,000.
Okay, and so normally we're dealing with sales and use tax where it's been collected and held in trust for the state, but then used for other purposes. So this is a little different animal, just in my opinion. And I do have a question for Ms. Arceo. I tried to put together a timeline, and correct me if I'm wrong, but there was the audit assessment was issued to the taxpayer, and the taxpayer petitioned for redetermination of that. And then an incident happened that incapacitated her. And then no information was sent. So during that period of time when the redetermination became final because nothing was sent, she was incapacitated. If I'm reading that correctly, was an extension granted? Was there any accommodation so that she could have the additional time to present some evidence?
For the record, Lisa Arceo for the department. That would be at the discretion of our audit section. It doesn't seem like there was anything provided by Ms. Legowska at that time. I don't know if from the record, from our system notes, it doesn't state that she had requested additional time. So the department went based on the information that they had at that moment.
Okay. In our documentation, there's a matrix that was provided to her accountant later after the audit that was provided, and it has 3 different tax types and a number of different types of transactions, services, and fees, and whether or not they're taxable under each of those types. Mm-hmm. That handy dandy guide or cheat sheet, that should be provided, I think, to all of the rental car companies, plus whatever other types of fees that crop up. That looked like an excellent tool to have, that maybe when she opened her business, it would have avoided all of the issues. But that's confusing that each different one has different treatment for different types of tax. It's just confusing to me. I've never dealt with that, but I appreciate you doing that. I think that if that would be shared, that would be great. And I think that, yes.
For the record, that information was provided to Ms. Legowska when she registered the business.
In that format? Because
Yes,
that was in
ma'am.
response to her asking for the certain types of fees.
Yes, unfortunately, our records retention didn't go back that far, but an email was sent to her by our tax examiner that handles these types of taxes. And it stated this information on that back in, I want to say 2013 or 2014, that information was provided to her. But we couldn't
Ms.
locate the
Legowski,
email.
can I ask the taxpayer if she received that, if she recalls receiving that guideline?
I don't recall, but I know for a fact that it was not provided in the clear format like it was provided to Vlad Lapachkin when it was requested.
And okay, all right. I'm troubled by this, and I'll leave it at that for now. Thank you.
Very good. Is there any other questions of the department or the taxpayer at this time? Is there a motion?
This is Commissioner Wren. I would move to approve the waiver.
Can I just clarify that if I'm understanding the motion correctly, you're overturning the administrative law judge's recommended decision and citing in favor of the taxpayer?
That is correct.
I think that the administrative law judge's decision was technically correct, but I would also, out of our judgment or our ability to consider all of the facts and circumstances in our packet, I would say in this situation that I would agree. I'm sorry, that's my second.
Okay. So in effect, we're skipping a step here. We're going to overturn the administrative law judge's decision. So I've got a motion by Commissioner Wren and seconded by Commissioner Byram. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to take a roll call vote. Commissioner Wren?
Aye.
Commissioner Bursey?
Aye.
Commissioner Witt?
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson?
Aye.
Commissioner Byram?
Aye.
Commissioner Brown?
Yes.
Commissioner Lippman?
No.
Okay, we have overturned the administrative law judge's decision. Thank you. I'm going to butcher your name, so I won't say it. I apologize, but thank you for your time today. We've overturned the administrative law judge's decision. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Director Hughes, next item on the agenda.
Chairman, can we request a 15-minute break? We're having some IT difficulties here and would just like to get those resolved.
Okay. We'll come back at 10:25.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. I apologize, everyone. We're having some pretty significant IT challenges in Carson City this morning. So our screen is freezing quite a bit for them. So we're attempting to correct that. So thanks for your patience. I'm wondering if the court reporter is having any of those same issues, or is it working fine for you?
Nope, everything's just fine on my end.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I'm getting a note from Carson City that they're still having some struggles getting up to speed here. So it will be just a few more minutes. So thank you all for your patience. Okay, I'm getting a message from Carson City that they're almost ready. So just a few more minutes. I appreciate everyone's patience. So hang tight with me for just a bit longer. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, it's a good time to take a break. It gives us all a chance to learn how to say Nevada, not Nevada. Just thought I'd throw that in.
Yeah, it's a typical mistake, isn't it?
It is. And I don't think people realize how irritated us Nevadans feel about it. Just kind of, you know, we'll send them to Nebraska.
Oh, funny. Well, I see Carson City. Can you hear me now? Tina, can you hear me now?
Pairs.
You just had to be more assertive with the button.
We can hear you now. Can you hear us?
Yes, perfectly. Thank you. Okay, let's go ahead and reconvene. Hopefully, hopefully our technical issues are behind us. I really appreciate everyone's patience. Thank you so much. Okay, Director Hughes, do you want to introduce the next item on the agenda, please?
Yes, the next item is 5C, petition for reconsideration of departments, denial of exemption status for organization created for religious, charitable, or educational purposes pursuant to NRS 372.3261. The first item on the agenda is Penta Cares Foundation. And we have Andrea Nichols from the Attorney General's office representing the department.
Morning. For the record, I'm Senior Deputy Attorney General Andrea Nichols, that's Nichols, appearing on behalf of the Nevada Department of Taxation. This is an appeal of the denial of a request for exemption from sales and use tax as a charitable organization. And the department requests that the denial be upheld because Penta Cares Foundation failed to provide sufficient information on how the exemption would be used in Nevada.
Thank you, Ms. Nichols. Is there a representative from Penta Cares Foundation on the line?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Carrie Domina, representing Penta Cares Foundation.
Could you spell your first and last name for the court reporter, please?
I can. Carrie is spelled C-A-R-Y, Domina is Domina. Sorry, I was trying to read a pop-up that came up at the same time, trying to spell my last name, and I guess I'm not coordinated enough to.
That's quite all right. Go ahead and state your case for me, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. I am getting this message that says join as panelist or stay as attendee. I don't know what I'm supposed to say here, but it's precluding.
Stay as attendee.
Okay.
Attendee.
I've been pushing it and it keeps going back and forth. But anyway, thank you very much. Before I go into the argument, I just wanted to give quick background on who Pentacares is. It was organized as a nonprofit corporation back in March of 2019. It was designed to be the charitable arm of the Penta Building Group, which is a large Nevada-based general contractor in this state who employs hundreds of Nevadans. The Penta Building Group has constructed many projects in this state, large ones that this commission is probably familiar with. Just some of the notable ones: T-Mobile Arena, where the Las Vegas Knights play, the Las Vegas Ballpark, where the Aviators play, the Lucky Dragon Hotel, the SLS Hotel, and they also constructed both the UNLV and UNR student unions. So they definitely are a staple in the community. And given the success that they've had in Nevada, the owners wanted to do something and create a nonprofit organization that would give back to the community in which it serves through charitable donations and service. And so back in 2019, when Pentacares was founded, it raised in its first year approximately $627,000 and donated more than 1,000 man hours of service to various charitable organizations within the state. Some of those I mentioned those in the brief, but just quickly, there's a few here that are important to mention: the Las Vegas Rescue Mission, Opportunity Village of Nevada, Three Square Food Bank of Nevada, the Nevada Childhood Cancer Foundation, Ronald McDonald House of Greater Las Vegas, and the Special Olympics in Nevada. This was information that was provided in the brief, clearly indicating that the funds that Pentacares is able to fundraise, it goes to these Nevada organizations. It should be noted that Pentacares has already received a 501c3 exempt status from the IRS. And believe it or not, they actually have received a letter of exemption from the very tax-hungry state of California. So we were surprised when we got the notice here. And by the way, those applications that we submitted to the IRS and to California contain the very same information that the department received in our application here. However, on February 25th, 2021, the department issued a letter denying the application, and it was completely different than what's being portrayed today at this hearing. The brief specifically says that Pentacares is not benefiting a clearly defined group because it chooses which groups or particular organizations it will support. Now, we believe that this is a misinterpretation or a misinterpretation or a faulty way of analyzing NRS 3723261, because the language there uses the term, or it requires a charitable organization to show that it's benefiting a substantial and indefinite class of persons who are legitimate subjects of charity. And then the second obligation is that you show that you're operating in the state. But their brief, if the department's brief says that Pentacares is not benefiting a clearly defined group, we believe that's completely at odds with the chosen language of the legislature in NRS 3723261, as the term is used indefinite. And granted, that term indefinite is not defined in the statute, but the Nevada legislature has used that term in many other legislative enactments, and it's recognized as, to mean, you can look it up in the dictionary, but it means that it is something that is indistinct, vague, imprecise, not adequately defined. And so for the brief to say we have to specifically define a group, we believe that it's completely at odds and actually the opposite of what the statute says. In other words, the act requires that a charitable organization such as Pentacares benefit an undefined or generic class of persons and not a specific group. And so the fact that Pentacares has been providing fundraising and giving donations to a host of different types of charitable organizations in Nevada, we believe that's exactly what the legislature intended. And in fact, the department's interpretation of the statute, their position on this, it not only is it contrary to the plain language of the statute, but we think it also is a bad public policy. In other words, it fosters or it requires a charitable organization to kind of pick which charitable organization it wants to donate money to and provide services to, instead of having a host of charitable organizations receiving the benefit of what Penta's trying to do. The second part, real quick, that we believe was misconstrued is, and again, I'm just going off the brief. I don't know what council's going to say at this hearing. All I can do is look at the brief, and the arguments that were made was, number one, it's not a defined group, which we think the statute says differently. And number two, they say that this is, you haven't shown that you're operating in Nevada. And we absolutely have. Well, first of all, the statute doesn't say that you have to be exclusively operating in Nevada. So the fact that Pentacares does on occasion do fundraising in Arizona and California does not mean that they do not qualify for the exemption. All we have to show is that we are operating in Nevada, which we have shown. We established that Pentacares provided donations to all of those Nevada organizations. Whenever a fundraiser event is being hosted in Nevada, Arizona or California, then Pentacares will use the letter of exemptions from those states to purchase whatever materials and supplies they need to run their, whatever it may be, a marathon, a race, a gala, whatever it is that they do. And so here we are, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, Pentacares is doing good work in this state, and they are representing the most vulnerable parties in this state. And they will continue to do so regardless of what the commission's decision is on whether they receive the letter of exemption. But I can tell you that if the letter of exemption is granted, all that means is every dollar that Pentacares is able to raise just goes that much further, helping the most vulnerable and deserving citizens in Nevada. And for this, Pentacares respectfully requests that the commission reconsider the department's decision denying Pentacares' application for the letter of exemption and grant the letter of exemption. I'm happy to take any questions that the chairman or commissioners have.
Thank you, Mr. Domina. Ms. Nichols, do you have a rebuttal?
Thank you very much. I think Mr. Domina misconstrues the department's brief. First, I would point the chairman and commissioners to the letter of denial. It's in my packet, Bates stamped at, I believe, 63. The letter is dated February 25th, 2021. And the reason that the reason for the denial is failure to submit sufficient information. See NAC 372-700. And if you read my brief, which I assume you did, that is the reason for the denial. I'm just going to read NAC 372-701. An organization requesting exempt status must submit to the department an application on a form prescribed by the department and copies of. C is financial information which provides verifiable sources of income and expenditures, which may include without limitation financial statements and independent audit reports. And then under 3A, the department may deny an application for exemption if it finds that the organization has failed to submit sufficient information on which to grant the exemption. I would ask you to look at the financial information that they submitted that's on page, Bates stamped page 42. And what we can see from the information that they submitted is that they held a golf tournament. And if you'll give me just a second now, I have to page 42. So they have a Las Vegas golf tournament that looks like it raised $144,000 and that the expenses were a little over, or almost $34,000. And then what we would look for is Nevada specific expenditures. They gave us a list of where they have presumably donated, but we don't have, there's no numbers on the list. The list includes organizations inside and outside of Nevada. As I pointed out in my brief, I believe they had 3 different donations to the American Cancer Society, which great. But one was Nevada, one was Arizona. I think one might have been national. They donate to looks like different universities in different states. But again, what the department would want to see is the Nevada specific expenditures. And we're not asking for any information that we wouldn't ask of any other organization. And the department is not saying this is not a great organization. We're just saying, show us the financial information that shows that if you brought in X amount of dollars from your golf tournament, that you expended X amount of dollars. And then we also ask for, if they're doing volunteer work, we want to see those volunteer hours. And again, it's just the information that the department would ask for from any other organization. And under NAC 372-700, the department can deny an application if it finds the organization has failed to submit sufficient information, and information that is specifically required is financial information with income and expenditures. We can see income from a golf tournament. We can't see the expenditures. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Nichols. Just to be clear, it appears to me that this is a lack of documentation, not that, I'm familiar with this particular foundation and they do some really fantastic, wonderful work. It feels like this is more of a lack of documentation that we could solve this issue. Is that a good statement?
Yes, Chairman.
Okay. Is that something that we could have someone in the department working with Mr. Domina to correct that situation? Because like I say, they do some really good work on the West Coast, and this is an important thing for me anyway. I think they do a really good job.
I would be happy to put Mr. Domina in touch with someone from the department.
Mr. Domina, would that be acceptable? It sounds like we just need a little bit more documentation and this would move forward and be approved. Are you agreeable to providing that additional information?
Absolutely. And I apologize that it wasn't provided in the format requested. It really did feel like there was a moving target, that we were being told we needed to focus on some things versus others. And so had I known that it was really just this breakdown, I think we could have resolved that pretty easily.
Yeah, I would agree. Like I say, I think we want you to continue doing what you're doing in the state of Nevada. So yeah, if you could work with the department to get that handled, that would be terrific.
Absolutely, we will. Thank you.
Okay, this is on an agenda item, obviously, for reconsideration. Mr. Domino, I believe we'd need to deny the exemption, and then could you please reapply with all speed, and we'll work with you as closely as we can at the department.
Mr. Chairman, is there a way for it to be continued, not actually kind of taken under advisement or continued in the interim? I don't know how quickly. In our last experience with applying with the department, there were some significant delays on both sides. COVID was obviously a problem, but I just wonder if there's another avenue that can be pursued as opposed to ruling now and then having to reapply.
Okay.
If I may, Chairman, perhaps we could, as we did in another matter, just remand this matter back to the department for receipt of further information. Would that be a possibility?
I would be very supportive of that. Is there anyone on the tax commission that would be opposed to remanding this item back to the department?
This is Commissioner Wren. Can we remand it back with approval, just subject to them receiving the adequate information?
I think it would be automatically approved by the department without us, is what I'm kind of thinking. So if you remand it, would you be okay with that then?
Absolutely, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Domina. Okay, without, I'm not seeing any dissent here. We'd like to remand this back to the department. Is that something that needs a motion, Ms. Bordelove?
I don't believe so at this point. Since you are effectively not taking action and just you're not continuing it either because you're not planning to bring it back, but you're choosing to refer it back to the department. You could take a motion as action to do that if you want to, but I don't think it's necessary.
Okay, let's, without seeing any dissent, let's go ahead and remand it back to the department. And Mr. Domina, thank you. I know we're putting you through a little bit more extra effort, but good things sometimes require extra effort, and we appreciate what you're doing.
Well, thank you. Appreciate it from your end. Thank you.
All right, take care. All right, Director Hughes, the next item on the agenda.
Yes, the next item is item 5C2, the Amateur Athletic Union of the United States, Inc. And again, representing the department is Andrea Nichols from the Attorney General's office.
Thank you, Deputy Attorney General Andrea Nichols, appearing on behalf of the department. This is also an appeal of the denial of an exemption from sales and use tax, and the department requests that the denial be upheld because the organization does not meet the definition of either a charitable or educational organization. It looks like it provides services based on paid memberships, which would keep it from being classified as charitable. And the primary purpose is not providing activities for children because it provides activities for adults as well. So that's what would keep it from being classified as educational.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Nichols. I know we've got somebody from the Amateur Athletic Union on the phone. Could you please state and spell your name for the record? Tina, I'm not hearing anything. Are they on mute, or am I just not hearing anything?
I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
I can. Thank you.
Oh, I apologize. My name is Angela, Angela. Last name is Guardia, Guardia. I'm the Director of Finance for the Amateur Athletic Union.
Thank you, Ms. Guardia. Could you go ahead and state your case shortly? We've read a bunch of the documentation, but could you tell us why we should grant your exemption status, please?
Yes, just a little bit of background on the AAU. We were established in 1888 to promote sports activities for children. We were incorporated in 1968 in the state of New York. We are 501c3 with the IRS. We partner with Disney in Lake Buena Vista, Florida, as an anchor tenant to their Wild World of Sports complex. And as our partnership with Disney, we promote sports activities with children. We have approximately 577,000 members. Of those members, only 3.8 or 22,000 are adults. The reason for our adult members is that we require adults to become members of the AAU if they will be working with children. That puts them through our background screening process so we can weed out adults that do not meet our qualifications for working with children. We do have a few adult sports, but they are very small. I'm talking like less than a few thousand members for our overall membership. Our other focus is we work with the National Foundation on Physical Fitness to bring back the presidential youth fitness programs to schools. So our primary focus is working with children, although we do have some adult activities. They're very small and not growing. We see a decline in those every year because we do not promote those. We only charge $14 a year for a membership. We haven't raised our membership dues in many, many years to make sports accessible to as many children as we can. We also have many subordinates that fall under the AAU tax exempt status umbrella with the IRS. And many of our subordinates have been able to successfully get sales and use tax exemption in the state of Nevada, and they are in the same business that we are. So we're respectfully asking that you consider our appeal for sales and use tax, that be granted for us in the state of Nevada. And I know I'm probably pronouncing Nevada incorrectly. I apologize. I'm from the South.
It's Nevada. It's Nevada.
Nevada.
But,
I'm sorry.
whose county? Whose county? Is there any questions of Ms. Guardia or Ms. Nichols at this time?
Commissioner Lippman, I'd like to hear a rebuttal from Ms. Nichols to the statement, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
The documents submitted to the department show that they provide athletic activities for both children and adults. And the documentation really was not enough to demonstrate that the primary purpose of the organization is to provide athletic activities for children. They do come to Nevada to run tournaments, and the youth sports leagues, actually, I think what she was referring to, the youth sports leagues that come for the tournaments would be given an exemption because they can clearly demonstrate that they're providing athletic activities for children. When this organization comes to Nevada to run a tournament, we can't see that the tournament is just children. It looks like there may be adults as well. So I think that's where a little bit of the disconnect is the primary purpose of this large organization. And I think, as I said, and I think it bears just repeating, that of course the smaller organizations that are actually only providing athletic activities for children would of course get the exemption.
And just to clarify, we do not hold tournaments for adults, nor do we hold any sporting activities. The oldest activity that we hold would be for 18-year-olds.
I know that in the past, we've treated the parent organization similarly to this when there are underlying organizations that do get the exemption in Nevada. But now it does sound a little bit like we have an information disconnect. I'm wondering if this should be similarly treated to the Pentacares Foundation. To the Ms. Nichols, to the extent that it is for children, would that give you, if they're able to prove documentation, does that help their case?
Yes, I think that it's just not clear from what they submitted that the primary purpose that this would be used for in Nevada would be providing athletics to children. It looked like it's amateur athletics of all ages.
Mm-hmm. So once again, taxpayer has the burden of proof, and the way you prove is not necessarily by unsupported statements, but by documentation. So should we remand this back to the department, and the taxpayer can hopefully document? It sounds like they're have no doubt that this is for children.
Commissioner Lippman, I kind of tend to agree with you. I think the AAU has always been known as a group under 18, and I was kind of I was stumbling with the adult membership, but I think, you know, in this day and age, with them doing background checks and doing those kinds of things, and then the membership fee is pretty darn nominal, and it obviously I think it's something that, again, we could probably work through, but I think the AAU has been a standard for forever. Gosh, I think I was in high school with the AAU. So anyway, that's been a long time ago.
That's very dated.
And I agree.
Well, we were established in 1888. So
okay. Well, okay, maybe.
1888.
Okay, well, I'm a little before that. So yeah, okay, fine. Okay, thank you for Ms. Gardia. Thank you for making me older. I appreciate that. I would agree. I think this is another documentation issue that I think if you would be okay with working with our staff to try and clean up the application, I think we can get there. Would you be okay with that, Ms. Gardia?
absolutely. Just let me know what I need to do, and I'll do anything I need to do to clarify that for the state.
Okay, and you'll work on your pronunciation of Nevada.
Nevada, absolutely. I'm a Southern
You're
girl,
very
and I've
kind.
never heard it pronounced that way, so forgive me.
Well, that's okay. We all do it. We all do it here. So I appreciate your kindness and ability to work with us again. So if there's no dissenters, I would like to do the exact same thing and remand this back to the department for further documentation.
Thank you, Chairman.
I don't see any dissenters. Ms. Nichols, thank you so much for working with the taxpayers. I appreciate that.
Mr. Chairman, if I could briefly, I just wanted to introduce Richard Yen. He's a Deputy Attorney General with the Nevada Attorney General's Office, and he's recently started working on these charitable exemption requests, and he'll be presenting the next two matters.
Good morning, Chairman. Good morning, Commissioners. It's an honor to present before you all.
Thank you, Mr. Yen. We appreciate your time and efforts. We appreciate that. And welcome aboard. Director Hughes, the next item, please.
Yes, the next item is 5C3, Southern Nevada Sports Hall of Fame Foundation. And we have Richard Yin from the Attorney General's Office representing the department.
Deputy Richard Yen for the record. So this is an appeal of the department's denial of a request for the sales and use tax exemption for charitable purposes. In the case of Southern Nevada Sports Hall of Fame, the department denied its request because it doesn't provide services to a substantial and indefinite class of people.
Is there a representative of the Southern Nevada Sports Hall of Fame Foundation on the line?
Yes, good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission. My name is Catherine Jacobs, and I'm here on behalf of the Southern Nevada Sports Hall of Fame.
Okay. Could you spell your last name for the record, please, and then go ahead and make your case, please?
Absolutely. My last name is Jacobs, Jacobs. So thank you very much. We appreciate this opportunity to provide some additional information regarding the Southern Nevada Sports Hall of Fame's historical charitable giving for your consideration regarding our application. The main arguments for the denial that we have observed in the documentation are that Donations from the Hall of Fame are not the primary purpose of the organization, as they're not a substantial portion of our income, and that scholarships awarded seem to benefit a definite class rather than an indefinite class. So I wanted to just briefly address each of those items. When we were asked for a list of charitable activities, as documented in the argument, we provided a list of mostly fundraising events. And the list of events that we provided are the main fundraising vehicle for our organization. So while the events focus on the recognition of achievements by Southern Nevada athletes, the events themselves ensure the sustainability of our organization and perpetuate our ability to serve the community. The cost of the events themselves do represent a significant portion of the organization's budget, but it's the proceeds from these events that are granted both to youth athletes as scholarships, as well as donated to organizations who fulfill the Hall of Fame's primary purpose, which is supporting youth programs that promote leadership and character through sports. For the purpose of measuring the financial impact, I'd like to share just some brief information regarding our charitable giving historically as a portion of those proceeds. So between the years 2009 and 22, the Southern Nevada Sports Hall of Fame has granted $125,750 in scholarships through the Public Education Foundation. And in the past 3 years alone, scholarships have totaled $33,750. This represents 18% of the proceeds from our fundraising. During that same 3-year time period, we've donated over $27,000 in community giving to organizations that fulfill that purpose, such as the Miracle League of Las Vegas, Quiet Storm Foundation, and most recently in support of the Bolden Area Command Little League Baseball. So given those numbers, our community giving represents an additional 15% of those proceeds from these events. So scholarships and donations combined in the past 3 years have accounted for 33% of the proceeds from our fundraising events. And furthering that, on our 2019 990, our statement of functional expense shows programmatic expenditures at 59% of overall. And then regarding the definite versus indefinite class of persons, I did just want to give some clarity. So as I said, our charitable giving is twofold: donations and scholarships. The scholarships that we award are based on criteria, as most scholarship programs are, and awardees are selected based on their achievements in both athletics and academia. The donations from the Hall of Fame to other charitable organizations, however, are highly focused on those in need, such as the recent contribution to Bolden Little League, and I would believe strongly that this qualifies as legitimate subjects of charity. Should the department determine that with this additional information, our organization's charitable activities don't warrant a sales tax exemption, we'll accept that determination, but do really appreciate the opportunity to provide as much information as possible and respectfully request that you can reconsider the decision to deny the organization a sales tax exemption, which would allow us to maximize our charitable impact that we have on the Southern Nevada community.
Thank you, Ms. Jacobs. Mr. Yen, do you have a rebuttal, please?
Yes, Chairman. The department considered that the organization primarily holds an annual convention in Las Vegas. That's their big thing each year. It's an inception ceremony for each of their new inductees. The department considered that the primary purpose is stated in their bylaws and in their application to the department as to recognize the outstanding achievements by Southern Nevada athletes, both in the world of sports and the local community. And so that's not that's the primary purpose isn't to provide charitable services. And in its denial, they considered that the scholarships, as Ms. Jacobs stated, there's specific criteria for that and achievements, which benefits a definite class rather than an indefinite class of people. And in a review of their financials, although in the past they have provided those scholarships, their most recent profit and loss for April 2020 to March 2021 doesn't show any expenses for charitable purposes. So it, sort of just falls short of the primary purpose for charitable. purposes. And that's the main reason why the department denied the request. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, Ms. Jacobs, where is your primary address? Is it in Nevada?
It is in Nevada, yes, in Las Vegas.
In Las Vegas. Okay, thank you. Are there any questions of the taxpayer, Ms. Jacobs, or the department at this time?
This is Commissioner Witt. I just have a comment. I enjoy some sports. I think in this case, the Sports Hall of Fame, in reviewing the literature in our packet, a lot of recognition, a lot of famous sports athletes. I'm thinking that we need to lead a new effort in agriculture to have competitive compost turning, perhaps competitive cow milking. I remember we had some issues with the Reno Rodeo Foundation. It'd just be nice to see agriculture recognized as a food provider for all sports events. We could even have competitive gold mining or panning, and do things in a different nature than we currently do with sports. And so I tend to side more on the side of the department in this issue.
Thank you, Commissioner Witt. Are there any other comments? Is there a motion if there's no other comments?
Mr. Chairman, this is Commissioner Byram. I would move to uphold the department's denial of exemption status for Southern Nevada Sports Hall of Fame Foundation.
Commissioner Bursey seconds.
Okay, I've got a motion and second from Commissioner Byram, seconded by Commissioner Bursey. All those in favor of upholding the denial of the exemption status for Southern Nevada Sports Hall of Fame Foundation, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Is anyone opposed? Hearing none. Ms. Jacobs, thank you for what you do, and we appreciate it, and please continue your good work.
Thank you.
Director Hughes, the next item.
Yes, the next item is item 5C4, Smoking Shields of Nevada, Inc. And again, we have Richard Yin from the Attorney General's office representing the department.
For the record, again, Richard Yin, Deputy Yin, for the record. This is an appeal of the department's denial of the request of sales and use tax exemption for charitable purposes again. In the case of Smoking Shields, the department denied the request because the organization failed to submit sufficient information showing that it's providing charitable services in Nevada.
Is there someone on the line from Smoking Shields of Nevada?
If there is someone on the line for Smoking Shields of Nevada, Inc., please raise your hand or dial *9. Chairman DeVold, I don't see anybody raising their hand. I'm sorry. Oh, here he is. Thank you.
Okay.
Hello, this is Guillermo Loregui, president of the Smoking Shields of Nevada.
Could you spell your name for the court reporter, please?
Sure, Guillermo, Guillermo, and the last name is Larre, G like George, UI.
Very good, thank you. Could you go ahead and make your case for us, please, on why we should approve your exemption status?
Okay, as we had our approval in April of 2020 for our 501c3, we started doing some events to help our law enforcement and also our military community in and around Las Vegas. So we had a couple of events since then. Kind of COVID put a damper to us getting involved a little bit more. But since then, we've done a charitable golf tournament in Las Vegas. We've also raised money for the UMC Children's Hospital to purchase toys and coloring books and crayons. We've made a donation of about $1,500 and those supplies to them. And we've also donated funds to the Nevada Injured Officers Police Fund. And it would help us a lot if we could have a tax exemption, because when we do our events, we purchase food items and drinks and stuff for our people to consume while they're there, so they can donate for us. So other than that, I'm open for questions if anyone has any.
Okay. Mr. Yan, do you have a rebuttal?
Yeah, the department denied this because there just wasn't enough information. There was no business plan, no articles of incorporation submitted for consideration. They did submit a bank statement that covered 1 month, and it showed significant expenses all out of state to certain tobacco companies and match companies. But we don't have receipts of any charitable giving, save for a receipt to the golf tournament that Mr. Harugi had referred to. Lastly, and sort of the hard part, I think, for this organization to get by with the Department of Taxation is its bylaws allow the issuance of stock, and they can pay dividends, and that's just you can't do that if you want to qualify for an exemption based on charitable purposes. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions of the taxpayer or the department at this time? Seeing none, is there a motion?
Commissioner Witt, I would move to support the department's denial.
Commissioner Lippman seconds the motion.
Thank you. I've got a motion from Commissioner Witt and a second from Commissioner Lippman. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Is anyone opposed? Hearing none, we've upheld the denial of exemption status. Thank you for your time today. Director Young, the next item on the agenda.
Yes, this is Director Hughes.
No, it's a Freudian slip that I make often, even when you're not in the room. I apologize, Shelley.
No problem. Item 6A, it's regulations. Consideration for the adoption of permanent regulation LCB file number R108-20, a regulation relating to taxation, setting forth the method of calculating the fair market value at wholesale of cannabis, imposing certain requirements on certain cannabis establishments, relating to the payment of excise taxes on cannabis, repealing certain superseded provisions, and providing other matters properly relating thereto. For the department, we have Melissa Flatley, Chief Deputy Executive Director.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. It's my pleasure to appear in front of you today in this new role, so good morning. Before I begin my review of the regulation, I wanted to remind the Commission of the administrative rulemaking process under NRS 233B. So when the legislature authorizes the department to adopt regulations to effectuate enrolled legislation, the department drafts language and submits it to the Legislative Counsel Bureau, or LCB, for review. LCB reviews the language and determines whether the proposed regulation is consistent with statutory authority granted by the legislature and whether the language meets other drafting conventions that have been adopted by LCB. After LCB approves the proposed language and returns it to the department holds a workshop to present the proposed language and to take public comment. After the workshop, the department considers the public comment and may make revisions to the proposed regulation. If the revisions are a substantive change from the language received from LCB, the proposed regulation must be reviewed again by LCB. But if not, the regulation may proceed to an adoption hearing like the one today. If you adopt the proposed regulation, it is then sent back to LCB and forwarded to the Legislative Commission for review and approval. If the Legislative Commission approves the regulation, it's filed with the Secretary of State, and only then is the regulation effective. With that process in mind, I'll review the background of R108-20 and then walk through each section of the regulation. And I believe the regulation language was included in your meeting packet. The department held the workshop on this proposed regulation on November 16th, 2021. There was no public comment received in response to the workshop, and there have been no revisions to the language provided by LCB. Before the enactment of Assembly Bill number 533, or AB 533 of the 2019 legislative session, the excise tax on wholesale sales of cannabis to a medical marijuana establishment and the excise tax on wholesale sales of cannabis by a marijuana cultivation facility were imposed by separate sections of the NRS, those being NRS 372A.290 and 453D.500. Accordingly, the Department of Taxation adopted separate regulations prescribing separate procedures and requirements for the administration and enforcement of those excise taxes. And those chapters were NAC 372A and NAC 453D. The authority to regulate persons and establishments involved in the cannabis industry in the state were generally transferred by AB 533 from the department to the Cannabis Compliance Board. However, the department retained its authority over the administration and enforcement of the excise taxes on cannabis. AB 533 combined provisions relating to the excise tax on wholesale sales of cannabis by a medical cannabis cultivation facility and the excise tax on wholesale sales of cannabis by an adult use cannabis cultivation facility into a single section of Chapter 372A of the NRS. NRS 372A.050 requires the department to adopt all necessary regulations to carry out the provisions of that chapter, and NRS 678B.640 requires the department to adopt regulations to establish procedures to determine the fair market value at wholesale of cannabis. As a result, this proposed regulation, LCB file number R108-20, revises provisions of existing regulations relating to the excise tax on wholesale sales of medical cannabis to incorporate provisions relating to the excise tax on wholesale sales of adult use cannabis, thereby providing standardized procedures and requirements for the administration and enforcement of both excise taxes. Sections 2 through 10 of the regulation add definitions of certain terms to NAC Chapter 372A. Section 11 of this regulation sets forth the method by which the department will calculate the fair market value at wholesale for various categories of cannabis. The method set forth in Section 11 is substantially similar to the method of calculating the fair market value at wholesale of cannabis that was previously adopted by the department in the context of adult use cannabis. Section 16 of the regulation imposes certain requirements on cannabis establishments related to the payment of the excise taxes on cannabis. The section requires the payment of an excise tax on cannabis upon the first sale of cannabis or cannabis products to a cannabis establishment or consumer. Additionally, Section 16 requires a taxpayer to maintain certain documentation and authorizes the department to require the submission of certain financial statements under certain circumstances. The provisions established by Section 16 are substantially similar to the provisions governing the administration and enforcement of the excise taxes on cannabis that were previously adopted by the department in the context of adult use cannabis. Section 18 of this regulation repeals a number of existing sections of the Nevada Administrative Code relating to excise taxes on cannabis that are either superseded or duplicative of provisions of existing law. Sections 12 through 15 and 17 of this regulation make conforming changes to existing regulations. This concludes my review of the proposed regulation. And today we ask for the commission to adopt LCB file number R108-20. I'm available to answer your questions at this time.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there any questions at this point before I go to public comment? Okay, Tina, let's go ahead and open it up for public comment. Is there anyone that would like to comment on this regulation? I would invite them to speak now.
If you would like to provide public comment, please dial *9 or raise your hand to be put into the queue. I don't see any public comment.
Okay, very good. Is there any other questions or a motion?
Commissioner Lippman has one question, and then I'm happy to make a motion.
Thank you.
Ms. Flatley, thank you very much for that comprehensive explanation. My sense, I was at the hearing, and my sense is and was at the hearing that this is pretty much clerical and making things conform consistent with the change in the statute. The one question I have is really procedural, and that is that there were no comments at the hearing, and Executive Director Hughes had to read into the record the very detailed regulations. I'm wondering, is that a requirement, perhaps on a going, I'm not sure how efficient that is. So just something to think about. That was very time consuming, and the regulations are quite detailed necessarily. In any case, I am happy to move to adopt these permanent regulations regarding calculating the fair market value of wholesale cannabis, et cetera.
Commissioner Wren, I would second that.
Okay, thank you. If there's no other discussion, I've got a motion from Commissioner Lippman, seconded by Commissioner Wren. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Is anyone opposed? Okay, regulation is adopted. Director Hughes, the next item on the agenda.
The next item is item 6B, consideration for the adoption of permanent regulation, LCB file number R074-20, a regulation relating to taxation, establishing requirements for the administration of transferable tax credits issued to sponsors of certain low-income projects, and providing other matters properly relating thereto. And we have Melissa Flatley, Chief Deputy Executive Director for the department.
Thank you for hearing our second item this morning. And Commissioner Lippman, I've made a note of your comment, and we will consider that for future workshops. So for background on R074-20, the department held the workshop November 16th, 2021. There was no public comment received in response to the workshop. The department received 2 responses back from the Small Business Impact Survey, and both responses indicated that there would be no direct or indirect, adverse or beneficial effect of the proposed regulation. The department has made no revisions to the language reviewed and provided by LCB. Existing law authorizes the Housing Division of the Department of Business and Industry to issue transferable tax credits that are authorized to be taken against certain state taxes to the sponsor of a project for the acquisition, development, construction, improvement, expansion, reconstruction, or rehabilitation of low-income housing. Under existing law, the Nevada Tax Commission is required to adopt regulations prescribing the manner in which such transferable tax credits will be administered. Sections 2 through 6 of the proposed regulation incorporate and add definitions of certain terms to NAC 360 that are necessary for purposes of implementing this regulation. Existing law requires the Housing Division to notify the Department of Taxation of all transferable tax credits issued to a sponsor of a low-income housing project and of all such transferable tax credits transferred. Section 7 of the regulation requires the notification to be made in writing and sets forth certain requirements for the contents. Under existing law, transferable tax credits issued by the Housing Division to a sponsor of a low-income housing project may be applied to certain excise taxes on banks and payroll taxes, certain gaming license fees, certain general taxes on insurance premiums, or any combination of such taxes and fees. Section 8 of this regulation requires a holder of transferable tax credits who is applying such credits to an amount of taxes due to offset the amount of such taxes due to the extent of the transferable tax credits. Section 8 also requires the holder to include with his or her quarterly tax return a form indicating the type of tax to which the credit was applied and the amount of the credit applied. Existing law requires a sponsor of a low-income housing project to repay any portion of transferable tax credits to which the project sponsor is not entitled if it is found that the project sponsor made false statements or representations when obtaining the credits or failed to comply with certain other requirements. Under existing law, transferable tax credits that were purchased in good faith are not subject to forfeiture or repayment by a transferee unless the transferee submitted fraudulent information in connection with the purchase. Section 9 of the regulation requires the Housing Division to notify the Department of Taxation if the Housing Division finds that a transferee has used transferable credits obtained by a project sponsor who made false statements or representations when obtaining the credits or failed to comply with certain other requirements, or a transferee submitted fraudulent information in connection with the purchase of transferable tax credits. This concludes my review of the regulation. Today, we ask the Commission to adopt LCB file number R074-20, and I'm available to answer your questions at this time.
Thank you, Ms. Flatley. Are there any questions before I go to public comment? Seeing none. Tina, is there any public comment on this regulation?
If you would like to provide public comment, please dial *9 or raise your hand to be put into the queue. I do not see any public comment.
Okay, very good. Any other questions of the department? Is there a motion?
Commissioner Lippman moves to approve the regulations to adopt permanent regulations for transferable tax credits related to low-income projects and other matters. Item 6B of the agenda.
Commissioner Byram, second.
Okay, and I've got a motion from Commissioner Lippman, seconded by Commissioner Byram. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Very good. I believe that concludes our agenda, except for the informational items. Director Hughes, do you have, can you go over those informational items for us, please?
Yes, item 7 is informational items. 7A, penalty and interest waivers granted by the department for sales use tax, modified business tax, and excise tax. And 7B, approval and denial status report log for organizations created for religious, charitable, or educational purposes. Those items were included in your packet.
Okay, and those are informational items. Any questions on either of those two items? Okay, seeing none. Director Hughes, your briefing to the commission.
Thank you, Chairman. I do not have much to report today, other than members of the department's executive team will be attending the state's budget kickoff, which is March 9th. And that concludes my briefing for today.
Short and sweet. Okay, very good. I do have an announcement before we get up to a couple of other items. In January of 2022, I delivered my formal resignation to the governor. This will be my last tax commission meeting as chairman, as a member of the commission, effective 3/31/22. I'll be retired. This has been a 10-year run, and I don't think these appointments are forever. So I think I've done my tour of duty. I hope that is the case. But I just wanted to say to each one of the commissioners, I'm absolutely honored to serve with each one of you. You're wonderful people, and it's been an honor to serve with you. I also want to thank all of the administrative law judges and the deputy attorney generals. They've been fantastic to work with. And a special shout out to the staff that I don't know how we are able to collect some of the most professional and knowledgeable and skillful employees in the state of Nevada, but it's been an absolute pleasure. All of them are 100% class, and it's just been an absolute pleasure. So anyway, with that, thank you all, and hopefully I'll continue to run into you at various restaurants and airports or wherever we happen to attend. So with that, this will be my last meeting, and I appreciate all of your support over the years.
Thank you, Chairman DeVold.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's been a pleasure serving with you.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Jim. Good luck.
Clap.
All right.
This is how you clap in silently. So.
All right. Thank you so much. Okay, the next meeting is May 2nd. Director Hughes tells me that the governor will be appointing a new chairman shortly. So best of luck with all of that. So May 2nd, next meeting. Tina, is there any public comment at this time?
Anybody would like to provide public comment, please dial *9 or raise your hand to be put into the queue. I do not see any public comment.
Okay, are there any other items for future agendas? Okay, hearing none, we stand adjourned. Take care, everyone. I wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.